Really excited about tonight. Fantastic winery. And here with us tonight, we got Jacob David, the founder and chairperson of Jezreel Valley Winery. Joshua from IWPA, the Israeli Wine Producers Association. Fantastic guy, put together this whole program, got all the amazing winery personalities to show up, wake up early in the morning. It's about 4 a.m. in Israel right now.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, everybody. Josh from New York saying hello to Jezreel Jacob Winery at 4 o'clock in the morning. Let's start the morning with Jacob. Let's see what he does in the morning on his way to work. So good morning, Jacob, and
good morning.
Let's get your day started.
So Josh knew he had me when he said you're going to jog from your house to the winery, and we're going to do the tasting at the winery. So as he knows, I go running every morning, and I do usually end up at the winery, but I don't think I'm going to take you on my full run, which would be about an hour and a half. So I think I'm going to do a very abridged version, so you can see what I can see.
Beautiful.
We've just left my house. And let's pick up the pace. So we're going to head out to the winery. So there's the winery over there. We're almost there.
Can you explain as you're going a little bit? What is a pet nat? What is that? What does it mean? Look at that.
I'm going to stop to answer that one. But here we are at the entrance to the winery area. And we're going to go around to the front door. Here we go. So I just want to show everyone, this is the main winery building. And in better times, which hopefully we'll be back to very soon, every Friday we have a beautiful open house here all day long. It's just a great place to come, relax. And I'm going to flip you around and just give you a little tour of the inside of the winery before we sit down. So this is our tasting room. Sorry, that towel should not be there. I want to be a little cleaner. This is our tasting room. We actually don't have so much wine on the shelves because, thank God, we were selling a lot of wine. And I'm going to get my bottle of Pet Nat Rosé, which I've had chilling in the fridge. Now, the difference between my bottle and Josh's bottle, Josh, where's your bottle?
My bottle's right here.
So the difference between my bottle and Josh's bottle is, you can see mine doesn't show the beautiful coloring of the Pet Nat Rosé. That's because it's a green tinted bottle. And why is that? It's exactly the same wine, but it's just a little lesson about logistics of running a boutique winery, is that you order a certain amount of clear bottles so that people can see that gorgeous color coming through, and then when the bottles come, a chunk of them are not those clear bottles. So what we did is all the ones which are the nice clear bottles we sent to the States.
David, do you want to just quickly address the cap that was on the bottle?
Sure. So we'll take you all through the full Pet Nat experience. There we go. So it is like a beer cap. So what is a Pet Nat? What's a Pet Nat Rosé? How is it different than a regular rosé? A lot of questions to unpack there. So first of all, Pet Nat. You can Google it. It stands for Pétillant Naturel, which is a traditional winemaking process, where I call it. This is my own version. I call it poor man champagne. But you don't have to be poor to drink it. You can be rich in spirit or in material goods, but it's a winemaking process where most of the fermentation is taking place in the bottle. So basically after harvest, this particular wine is a rosé. This is being made from the Carignan varietal. And as you know, with the rosé, you pull off the juice pretty quickly. Most of the color coming from the skins, and then you bottle basically right away, and the fermentation is all taking place in the bottle. In the States, natural wines have been a big big hit amongst the hipster community the past 5-6 years. And pet nats are like the pinnacle of the natural wine community. And all the work really is bringing you to the point of bottling, because after you're bottling it, you're really putting yourself in the hands of the powers that be, and hoping everything comes out all right, because there's almost no intervention, basically zero intervention in the winemaking process after you bottle. We have two different types of pet nat that we make. One is this gorgeous pet nat rosé, which is available in the States. For the first time. We've been making pet nat for 3 years now. We started off and continue to make in very limited production, as well as this is very limited production. We make a pet nat from a grape called Dabuki, which is an indigenous grape here in Israel, grows wild. Several winemakers have started to try and use Dabuki in the winemaking process. We started a number of years ago using it specifically for our first pet nat. I like both. The pet nat Dabuki, from a taste point of view, you got to taste it. I don't want to force my subjective opinion on you, but it's a very, very, very interesting wine, as is this. A few things that I want to tell you about it. One, many wines, you can open them up, and then if you, depending what you use, whether you use a vacuum stopper or simply just put the cork back in quickly, you can kind of keep it for a couple of days and drink it through. This wine will, first of all, lose its fizz quite quickly once you open it up. Two, it's pretty low in alcohol content. So it's 11% in alcohol content, very easy drinking. I recommend opening this. You could down a whole bottle by yourself. I have been known to do that after a very long run, but I would recommend opening it up on a nice chilled bottle on a hot afternoon with some friends. You'll go through the bottle in no time. Really, really, really easy drinking wine. So,
what would you say the biggest difference between a sparkling rosé and a pet nat rosé would be?
A sparkling rosé can mean so many things, but usually it's the fizz is added. A standard rosé method, it's very, very different than the pet nat process. I think the real issue is in the winemaking process. Along the way, you intervene, right? Winemaking, in contradistinction to what a lot of people think about the natural wine movement, the winemaking process is an involved process, all year long, and for certain wines for several years in the making. Whereas pet nat, most of the work is until the point where you're bottling it. Once you bottle it, you're not testing the wine. You're not doing it. You're just kind of hoping it all works out.
Oh, I was just asking, is it dry?
Is it dry? Yes. So I forgot to say that. So, I have a big joke that I do in some of these tastings, which is I say, first of all, let me explain, this is a wet wine. All of our wines are wet. But in terms of what most people refer to as a dry wine, this would be considered a dry wine. We do make one wine which is would be referred to as semi-dry, which is Gewürz. I personally, just total personal taste thing, usually only drink dry wine, so I'm kind of biased towards that side of things. You do though get, with particularly this wine, more of a feeling of I wouldn't say sweetness, but definitely some echoes of sweetness coming through. Very fruity.
You were talking about the difference between the two that you make.
Yeah.
Dabuki. It's an
Tabuki.
Are you guys using that in anything else?
Right now, no. So Tabuki is a challenging varietal to work with, as is Carignan, but Tabuki even more so because just not that many people have used it for winemaking. So there aren't so many people to learn from. Part of winemaking and a big part of it is learning from people. And we learn from just so many wonderful people. You had on already Amichai Aluri from Shiloh, who's a mentor to us, as are so many other wonderful people in the winemaking industry. We're now 8 years old as a winery. Our first first harvest was in 2012. But in winemaking terms, that's still, prepubescent, if you will. We're not really at our maturity yet. And we've been learning from so many people. Tabuki just doesn't have that many people working with it. You have Avi Feldstein, if people are familiar with him, who uses Tabuki, just not that many people. It's part of, a growing trend here in Israel to both reclaim or claim varietals which grow here naturally, which is part of our ethos as a winery, and to be exploring new things, right? As kind of startup nation, let's not get stuck doing just one thing. So
before we jump into the rosé, if you have a bottle of rosé there, I'd love to show everybody a bottle of rosé. And can you just let everybody know that if you do, and when you try a bottle of this Pet Nat, if you look at it and it looks a little cloudy, or it looks like there's a little sediment floating in the bottle, or it looks like there's something there, that's okay, right?
Yeah. So, natural wines are sometimes called, some people refer to them as dirty wines. And actually, so they're not filtered, number one. A lot of wine, you may or may not know, is filtered in the process of winemaking. And that is to remove any of the sediments left. So this does not go through a filtering process. As I said, it's kind of everything that's supposed to be in here is in here. Which means when you get to the end, Josh, you could probably see it better on your bottle, but when you get to the end, there's going to be this sediment at the bottom. And it's actually one of my favorite parts of drinking this wine is when you're the person who gets the last glass. Newest rosé, our 2019 rosé, which I believe is available on Kosherwine.com. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this is the Hebrew label. This is the Hebrew label of the rosé. We didn't start making rosé till like 2014 vintage. The first rosé that I really, really enjoyed, probably in my life, I was not a big rosé drinker. And some of it is context, obviously, as always with wine. But I sat down many years ago with my friend Eli Wertman from Bat Shlomo Winery, and we together drank the 2012 Castel Rosé, which was just superb. It was just the two of us, and I just said, wow, I've never given rosé its due. I really enjoyed this. And then I got more into it. Today I'm proud to say that I do enjoy a nice rosé, and I think our 2019 rosé is probably, again, there's no objective issues here, but I think we have really hit our stride with rosé.
Jacob, you talked about you being the winery's been 12 years. It's 12 years old about right now. What were you doing before this, and how did you get into this crazy business?
My parallel career, from a professional point of view, is a high-tech entrepreneur starting tech-driven companies. And I've been doing that here in Israel since 1994. But alongside, I was always interested in the winemaking process. I saw it as just an incredible, and lots of connections, by the way, to starting tech companies, but taking very basic elements, applying some technology and skill and luck, magic, divine providence, call it what you will, and ending up with a product that is very, very different than what you started off with. Anybody who's really interested in rosé, I urge you to kind of read the book by my friend Jeff Morgan, who, as I like to say, wrote the book on rosé. And Jeff was an important, was and is an important mentor of ours as well. We have a blend approach to our rosé, which we've always had. And this rosé of 2019, and I say of 2019 because we've changed it up a bit over the years, kind of searching for what we feel is the perfect rosé to drink on the beach, Tel Aviv. You know, you've had a great day frolicking in the sun. It's late afternoon. The sun is, starting to go down, and you open up a bottle of rosé.
Rosés usually are a better value. What makes them a better value compared to other red or white wines? Why are rosés usually a little bit less expensive?
So there's two reasons. One, what affects the price of wine? One of the things that affects the price of wine is time, how much time it spends in the winery, and two, what are you making that wine in? So if you're barrel aging a wine, barrels are quite expensive. They're also more challenging to work with, but a single nice French oak barrel is quite expensive. So it definitely affects the price of the wine. So yeah, I think part of the pricing issue is the amount of time it spends in the winery and what's being used to make the wine. As rosés have caught on and have been made in much larger commercial volumes, obviously anything made in commercial volumes is going to go lower in price.
And as you grab maybe the next bottle of red wine, can you talk about, what do you drink for Kiddush?
You have in the Jewish tradition something called Rov Kos, that when you say particularly Kiddush, for Kiddush, you should be drinking most of what's, at least the majority of what you have in your glass, to fulfill the blessing over the wine. And often, a lot of people are pouring Kiddush wine, which was a terrible, terrible invention made to, I think, punish the Jewish people for something we did in our history. And that wine, people often will pour it and then not drink it. They'll go like this and take a little sip, if anything, and they're really not fulfilling, right? They're not fulfilling the spirit or the letter of the law. So I say, pour yourself for Kiddush on Friday night or on Shabbat morning or on a holiday. Pour yourself wine that you enjoy drinking. I would say, first of all, educate yourselves, find wines that you actually do enjoy drinking. There's a reason why we bring in the Sabbath and bring in the holiday and so on. And whether we get married or so many other kind of central points in our life cycle is around wine in the Jewish tradition. For me, so I have so many different wines that I can pour, and I know that I'll drink relatively quickly that initial glass. I do find that for most folks, though, an easier wine is best, and we can talk about what an easier wine is, but we're not going to be tasting it right now. But for example, in our wines, which are available in the States, the Alpha, the Jezreel Alpha, which we just bottled, Jezreel Alpha 2018. You can, that wine is a nice young wine, drinks easily. I would say go for the Alpha for Kiddush.
Can you tell us a little bit about what makes a 90-point wine and how you guys been getting so many great scores?
But let me just kind of ease you into our red wines. We're gonna specifically talk today about two red wines. One is Adumim, and we're also going to be taking a look at the Nahalal 2018. Scoring of red wines. There's some aspects of it which are, you could say, are objective, but most are subjective. And you really, I think I have to say, quote, which is, more than the scores, find a wine writer or wine critic that your palate agrees with theirs. And literally just say, hey, I really enjoy this wine. They really enjoyed this wine. They gave it a 95, but I also really enjoy it. Don't force yourself to try and enjoy something just because it has a 95 rating from Robert Parker. if you don't like it.
And I know you guys produce a couple Mavushal wines in the portfolio. Is this one Mavushal? And can you just give me a quick?
What it's become for us is a flash pasteurization process where you take wine through. We actually literally created our own kind of machinery to do this, together with the help of neighbors of ours here, a company called Cortec. So we said to them, we've got a challenge. We want to create the ultimate flash pasteurization system for wine, where we want to bring the wine up to a very high temperature and bring it right back down within basically milliseconds. Anyway, we created together a system to do that, and we feel the effect of that Mavushal or flash pasteurization process kind of speeds up the aging aspects of the wine a little bit. Little known fact, Carignan is actually the most planted varietal in Israel. So if you have not had any Israeli Carignan, go get some. Recanati makes a very nice wild Carignan reserve. A number of other wineries make some very nice wine with Carignan. I urge you to try Carignan. It is a Carignan by itself. It's one of my favorite varietals. A very peppery, spicy wine. I like it a lot. And Syrah obviously is quite well known all over the world. Again, it's a sun-loving varietal. It does very well here. It gives a nice roundness, nice kind of holding it together.
There was one question I saw earlier. Let me try to find it. I think it was about the color of the bottles, and someone asked whether we use the green bottles for red wine just to protect it from the sun.
Yeah, short answer to most things in the world of wine is there's a lot of tradition, and some of that tradition actually has relevance in the wine making process or the wine itself. But I think the green tint, yes, the green tint definitely does protect the wine to some degree, but it's more tradition than anything else.
Two more questions. First question here is, what is the story of the woman on the label of the Petnat?
That's a secret. But the part of the secret that we can say is, no, I'll leave it a secret. No, I'll leave it a secret.
Thank you. And okay, we have one from Matthew. What can we look forward from Jezreel in the future? You guys are always doing cool stuff, as we've spoken about. What's the next cool thing you guys are doing?
It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you. I think part of what we're trying to do, again, is part of what we're doing is innovating in the sense of varietals. So I think look for us to perhaps do some funky combinations of varietals which haven't been together.
How long can a bottle of wine stay open in the fridge? What's the average Jezreel bottle in the fridge stay open?
So if you, again, either use a vacuum pump or just a very simple one, or just put a nice stopper in there, or even just put the cork back in, but put it nicely back in. You can enjoy your bottle for a couple of days for sure. Definitely two to 3 days. It should definitely be fine.
Which would you consider the most complex of all your wines?
So I think drinking Argaman on its own is going to be the most experiential of our wines. And Argaman is not a wine that I would just kind of throw down on the table and say, hey, everybody, grab. Argaman is a wine you really need to focus in on and as I said, experience it. So Argaman would be my answer.
But speaking of profit, the question reads, quote, my Israeli wife asks if your profits are communal property shared with the kibbutz.
So many kibbutzim, in fact, 2/3 of the kibbutzim in Israel have gone through a process of privatization, which means that we retain certain aspects of kibbutz life, but privatized many other aspects.
Questions about coronavirus and the impact on the harvest.
I'm hoping there won't be too much of an effect here in Israel. Thank God we've done we've done a fairly good job of getting in control of the pandemic, as some of you might be aware. So I'm hoping we won't feel too much of an effect from a harvest point of view in terms of our flexibility in the harvest. From a sales point of view, obviously, Corona has definitely affected us here in Israel and around the world, in the sense that there are no restaurants and hotels in a lot of our target markets, even here in Israel, where, as I said, we've done a kind of fairly good job of controlling it. Obviously, our hearts go out to all those who've lost their lives, and to families who've lost loved ones or have suffered. The reality is, here in Israel, there are no restaurants, and there have been no restaurants for 2 months. And in the wine industry, that's a big deal, both in terms of absolute sales, but also in the way of people getting introduced to our wine. I hope and pray that we come out of this very soon.
Guys, thank you all for joining, everybody, and just take a look back at the calendar at Kosherwine.com for more of these great meetings coming up, and we're going to be bringing other people back for more calls. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Hope you all found some interesting facts, and keep drinking great wine, guys.